Hello everyone, we're back here at SGCV. We got Nick on the show again. Nick, we're going to be talking deep today. I know from seeing you on social media, you've done quite a bit, and having watched them, they're eye-opening and almost refreshing to see people in the trade talking about it, really.
Thank you.
I suppose it is a big thing across both genders, just across the whole spectrum, that people aren't talking about it, and especially on site, which can be seen as quite a macho environment where you can't talk about your feelings and things like that. Like I say, we've seen you on social media, so what's sort of your experience in terms of mental health? Not necessarily just on site, but...
Yeah, so I've never really had much to do with it other than the past couple of years. I always saw, if someone said to me, got a bit of mental health problems, you were, in my eyes, being very, very naive, you just think, oh, a bit of a, got something wrong with them sort of thing. But now with all the experiences I've sort of gone through, so my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer in 2017, of the video that I've done. So we had to go through all that with my dad, and then unfortunately passed away, which is what happens, it's life, and it did suck, it did. My other half was very pregnant at the time, so then she had our daughter a couple of weeks after my dad passed away, which sucked, it really did. Being the youngest of the family, I sort of tried to take my dad's shoes, help everyone out. I'm always there to try and make someone smile. I get a lot of pleasure from making other people happy and making them smile, making them laugh. Even in the worst situations, I remember my dad had only passed away a couple of hours, and we were at home with friends and family come round, and we were making people laugh and giggle and just talking about all the good times, because you can slip and you start getting very upset and you go into a bit of a black hole of, I would say, depression. I wouldn't say I've never been depressed, but you can see how it could happen easily.
It's almost a slippery slope that you can see how easy it is for people just to fall into, isn't it?
We sort of went through that, and it did suck a lot, because I depended on my dad quite a lot for advice with work, family life. We just bought my house, we were renovating it just as he became ill, so he couldn't really do anything other than walk around and tell me what to do. Yeah, it was a massive weight put on me, as such as, I wouldn't say put on me as in I stepped into, I wanted to do what I wanted to do, but then the pressures that came with it, and then trying to continue a normal life for my kids. And what happened was awful, but like my dad said to me, the world doesn't stop spinning when someone dies. And it's very true. So we went along with that. Long story short, my friend bought a house that led onto the back of mine. So our gardens are joined, so we used to walk through each other's gardens, see each other. Very close friend. We asked to be godfather of my daughter, which he accepted, was fantastic. I know he had a few issues going on in his life, ex-girlfriends and money and whatnot. And then one day, he just texted me very, very weirdly, and we were talking about it, having a good laugh, as we normally do. He was very similar to me, he was a confident person, but he was lovable. Everyone would talk to him about anything. He was just such a nice person. Every time you had a conversation, you walked away smiling, or you had a nice time. And then one day I went round after that day, we had a chat, and fortunately I found he took his own life, which was just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. He was 27 at the time, family, brothers and sisters, and he was just absolutely crazy to think that was even possible, and not knowing anything that had really been going on in his life. And it really opened my eyes to how naive I was before. I was incredibly angry. Even still to this day, still very angry at what he did, to how it affected my life so drastically, really. My kids, my mom, because she knew him really well, his family, his friends, just everything. Every time I would look out my house back garden, I see his house. When I went to work, because he was involved in the electrical industry, I had loads of his tools, and it just went on and on and on and on. It was just heartbreaking to try and talk to his mom, talk and sort of funeral out, this, that and the other, and it was just, no one really saw. You try and put pieces together, you try and figure out what happened, where, what went wrong, and there was no clear-cut answer. We all got letters written for us, which I don't really think I've ever told anyone publicly. There was no clear answer of this is what happened, this is why. It was just a thank you, really, for helping him so much, and a goodbye, really. And it was, I can't even put it into words. It was just tragic at the same time, but also severely horrible, really. Then trying to figure out what'd gone on and sort the rest of his life out, what was left to try and sort out for his family, because they took it so, I mean, you can imagine it was so bad at what happened. And we had his funeral on the Friday, and then my brother's wedding was on the Saturday. And it was just like, wow, a whole year of just up and down, up and down, up and down, but like drastically. I just sort of, I wouldn't say started losing the plot, I just couldn't concentrate. I couldn't think about anything for longer than 5 seconds. I didn't want to go to work. I had to, I knew I had to pay for the mortgage and sort the kids out, but it was just, I just couldn't understand what was going on. In my own head, I spoke to my mum a lot about it, I spoke to my other half a lot about it, and said I want to go and see someone, because when my dad passed away, through the hospice he was at, they offered free counselling. So I said to my mum, yeah, I'm gonna go, because I kept having panic attacks. Like, if someone made me jump, I would just horrendously cry for 10 minutes, and it was uncontrollable. I remember with his wedding, a little girl popped a balloon, middle of the speech, and I was in tears. I had to leave. It was so embarrassing. The main thing was, for me, was embarrassing. I couldn't figure out why, and I just couldn't stop. I spoke to this lady, and I ran through everything with her very openly. We were swearing at each other in a joke. I said, "This is the way I speak. Is that okay?" And she come back straight at me. It made me feel so comfortable. As soon as I left there, sort of thing, she took a weight off me, because I knew I was logical with everything. I knew what was going on, and she said, "Everything you've said is, in my eyes, if you want to say it is you're well or not well, you're fine. You're well. You know what's going on. It's just going to take you time to figure out what's going to be easy to do and what's not." And ever since that happened, I was fine with it. But then trying to then go back and try and help his friends and family, and still my family as well, because everyone was still suffering very badly with it. It was just so much to try and figure out. And we keep putting it back to, if he'd have just told one of us, if he'd have just reached out and said, I'm not happy, or this or that, you do think that things could have ended up differently, you know. And that's why I decided to make a mental health video. If I could reach out to an audience that I had, and if it helped one person, just speak out for one conversation of the laugh, someone at work, a colleague, someone on a building site, to help that person, then I feel like I've almost done justice for my friends as such. Of the loss that we got from him, it's may have saved someone else. So yeah, all in all, it was a horrible year. Some good has come from it, because we've been able to try and help other people and go forward with it and spreading it. And I think it's a very taboo subject of people not wanting, men especially, not wanting to say how they feel, but there's just no harm in it.
No, it shouldn't be a taboo subject either, should it?
No, not at all.
I mean, I've done a little bit of work on site. I'm not an electrician or anything like that, but you do see the environment where you could understand why people wouldn't want to say anything. Yeah. It's not even just that. Even if you're down the pub with your mates or at football or anything like that, you can see why people wouldn't want to say something, and it shouldn't be like that. There should be no shame in admitting how you're feeling, or even saying, look, I'm not feeling good in myself, I need to go see a counsellor. I'll admit, I've been and seen a counsellor for stuff, and no shame in saying that. I think it helps. A lot of people almost have the mentality of man up and get over it, and that isn't going to help. No. But to me, it was almost, okay, manning up to me is dealing with it.
Manning up is going to see someone, proving to people that you've got nothing to hide. Yeah. It's a massive stigma with it. And if you can look at it in the sense of, I've been told to man up is admitting to it, in my eyes. Yeah. You come across, you tell people how you feel. And then it's up to that person, how that person wants to respond. Are they going to man up? They're going to try and say, yeah, tell me more. I've said it to friends before when stuff's gone in the back. You've gone, oh, everyone's done it. Oh, man up, as a joke, as a bit of banter with your friends. But it's the friend that you don't expect it with, and you tell them to man up, and there we go. It's awful. And people need to realise that there's so many people out there willing to help you, anyone else, anyone there to listen. There's phone calls, there's Facebook groups, there's millions of people ready to listen.
Yeah, I think education, awareness plays a big part. I mean, like you said earlier, if someone says, oh, they've got a mental health problem, you think, oh, he's a nut job. And I'll admit, I've when I was younger and more naive, I've had the same thing and think, oh, they're clearly nuts, stay away from them. No one else, no normal people have mental health problems.
Exactly.
When that's not the case.
No.
And I think through, now everything's such an information age, and you're hearing about it more. You're seeing more celebrities, people, it's just getting around. We know less than it ever did. It's just we're only now sort of becoming aware of it. And I think, something needs to change in terms of, the environment that we're living in and the mentality that people have with regards to mental health. Do you think there's anything, apart from like your videos, you've got a good following of people in the trade who are going to watch your videos and think, it's brilliant, I think if it can help people, but what else do you think could change out there to help?
Putting as much information as we can through videos, through social media, will help to a degree, but there's going to be some people that will still watch a video. They can either just not click on it, never watch it, or just think, man, I'm not going to do that. Support groups, so you electricians, you've got your CPSs, you've got a network of people where you could be, I'd say, assessed to a degree. The questions asked that some people don't want to ask. It's like with my friend, there was never a point where we had to go, are you all right? Because we never thought that would ever need to be needed. There was no clear signs for us. But for someone else to come round and you could turn around and say, are you okay? A phone call once a week or a month, or a text, or is there any issues? Just a random text that could appear every month, are you all right? And you could be just texting a stranger. You could say yes, no. I know there's a very few different ways to do it nowadays, but for the way I would do it, socially, it's, you've got all your WhatsApp groups now, private chats, strangers on the internet that are there to willing to give you a hand through these different websites. No clear answer from me, but I think there's just so many possibilities out there now, and now it's a chance that we've got all these different ways that we can now push it through videos or social media and say, this is 15 different numbers you can text or ring, or these websites and this and that, and just giving the information out now, because some people still aren't finding this information. So yeah, there's a way forward with it.
I mean, one thing for me I found especially helpful, having spoken to a counsellor before, was almost, I know it sounds cheesy, almost tools to maintain your own mental health. Almost, if there's things that start to bother you or things that start to get on top of you, almost like ways to cope with that. Was that the same for you?
My ways to cope was to just talk about it. Speak to people, stranger. I've said in my video, I used to go to customers' houses that I'd never met before. Not tell them the situation, but tell them in brief, and this is that. And once they go, oh right, we're going to talk about this, I'd end up getting stories out of customers that they never told people.
Gives you something to sort of relate to, I suppose,
yeah,
doesn't it? It makes you realise you're not the only one.
Exactly, and there's massive weights lifted off your shoulder that you don't realise at the time was there. And it was only from talking to customers and even on nights out with family or friends and whatnot, and you'd end up bumping someone and having a chat and whatnot. And then you end up just reeling off this stuff to them, and then they start doing it back, and you just walk away going,
feel better.
Wow, yeah. And it's one of those things you can't experience until you've gone through it, and you can go, this is great, and then it just makes you want to do it more and more. And I can happily talk about anything now regarding that whole year of my life, and even now it still affects me now to a certain degree. Not that I can sit and cry and get upset about it, but just little things bite at you constantly. And this is what I said in my video as well, of you need to get to a point where, being a man, you're expected to pay the bills. And in the whole scenario of what it used to be like, you pay the bill, you go to work, if there's anything wrong, you keep it bottled up. You won't tell your wife. It's your issue, it's your problem, you sort it out.
Drink your problems away.
Yeah, and this sort of stuff. And if there's anything in the slightest that's sat in the back of your head and there's a backwards thought or it's eating away at you, you need to get out straight away before it builds up and builds up and builds up. Because the moment it starts building up, it then becomes a very big problem, to the point where someone then either snaps and something happens, or like say you hit the drink, or there's so many different routes that people go down. But if you just got it out in the open at the beginning, where you think, oh, it's a bit of a niggle, I'll just mention this to my other half, it could then just be watered down to absolutely nothing and problem solved, or build up and go a different completely way. So.
You've sort of answered my next question I had in mind, which was, I mean, as you say, a lot of people will they won't deal with something until you're at breaking point. And that's if they do decide to deal with it.
Yeah.
And, how do you squash that at an early start? And you sort of answered my question, really, get it out in the open. Straight
away, whether it's to your friends, family, or to a customer. In my working environment, it's helped me a lot. I might be a completely different person now if I hadn't dealt with it the way I dealt with it. I could have dealt with it better ways, worse ways. It suits you as an individual, really, of what you're comfortable with. Because if you're not comfortable with going out and telling a random stranger face to face, then maybe texting someone or ringing someone or online or something, that might be the way forward. But you'll find what suits you better by actually trying different ways, really.
Yeah. Even just do a Google search on your local counsellor or support groups. Anyone, absolutely anything. There's help out there, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%. Anywhere you look.
Yeah. So for anyone watching out there, don't feel ashamed for any of it. Whether you're a big, strong, burly bloke, knocking down brick walls, or whatever you're doing, it's not just men, it's women, everyone out there, everyone's in the industry. You've got men and women in the electrical industry, in all the trades. Just don't be ashamed, don't be scared of opening up. Watch Nick's video, it's brilliant, and I hope it helps you. So thank you for watching.